to another vlog. If you're new here, my name is Sarah. I am a PhD student and I'm finishing up my dissertation in the next 3 weeks. So I'm letting that sink in. So that means this vlog is going to be filled with a lot of writing and hopefully making a lot of progress because I don't even want to think about how much I have to do in the next 3 weeks. So I've been in a routine lately of waking up and just not even thinking, just getting dressed and going to a coffee shop to do some work. So this morning I went to Need More Coffee and I did about 2 hours of work, got about 500 words written and read some articles in there and, you know, responded to some emails and stuff. So the morning stint is done and I came back home and I'm gonna do the afternoon stint in a bit. But I have some movers coming to help move all of the furniture that they had to move out of the living room and into the kitchen when they replaced the wood. If you know, you know, the whole burst pipe saga. So now they have to move everything out of the kitchen back into the living room. And it's like heavy bookshelves and big chairs and stuff like that, that it's just gonna be like really hard for me and Megan to move it around. So reached out to my landlords. They said that they will do this for us. And I cannot wait to finally have my house back. So this is what the kitchen currently looks like. I have moved quite a bit of the stuff on my own, but like this stuff is just a little too heavy. The couch we could slide, but the bookshelves I'm scared to slide. I think that they might scratch up the wood. Gotta put a bookshelf there, a bookshelf there. Our baseboards still aren't on yet, but I'm not gonna wait. I'm just gonna move stuff, and if they wanna attach them whenever they wanna attach them, they're gonna have to move our furniture again for us because it's been over 3 months. And the chair will go in the middle. Excited to finally have our living room back. I'm also in a state right now with the dissertation where I don't feel like burnt out necessarily. I just feel like I want it to be done so bad. So this chapter that I'm currently working on, which is chapter 3, is one that has just been throwing me for a loop essentially the entire time of the existence of this dissertation. And I was working on it in the fall I did like some significant work in the summer, and then I did a little significant work in like November and December, and then I didn't touch it until like a week ago. So it's been a lot to try and like reorient myself to this chapter in that way, especially since the chapter that I worked on before this, which was, that technically comes later, it's chapter 4, but that one is like about pedagogy and it's really specifically grounded and it's like not abstract at all. And this chapter that I'm working on is the opposite. It feels really just like, I don't know, up here and like not down here, as like Megan and I describe things. And it just feels like really abstract and really theoretical, and that's just like not necessarily my style of writing. I also don't like to like read stuff like that. So anyway, I had therapy last night and I don't really talk about like my dissertation a lot in therapy, but I was like, I feel like I need to because it's taking up so much of my energy. And so I was talking to her and I was like, you know, I feel like my problem is I just get so distracted in writing this chapter. I can't work for more than like 12 minutes at a time without wanting to like pick up my phone or like open up a browser and look at whatever. And part of that is because like I have a lot of stuff going on right now. Like I'm going to graduate, I'm going to move, I have a new job, like a lot of stuff. But also she helped me realize that a lot of it is because I don't enjoy this process. Writing is always hard, and I don't know if I'll ever get to the point where I'm like, I enjoy writing. But this chapter in particular feels especially unenjoyable. And we just talked a lot about sort of reframing things and accepting that it's going to look different. My process and the final product of the chapter is going to look different than some of my other chapters, and that that's okay. And that I need to adjust my expectations in that way. And maybe because it is this new kind of writing, and I don't want to say it's harder necessarily, but like sometimes it feels harder, that I might not be able to like produce as many words per day, or I might not be able to work for like, I don't know, hour-long stints at a time like I could in the previous chapter without taking a break. So I felt really good waking up this morning after having that conversation, and I have another conversation scheduled for this afternoon with my dissertation writing coach, which I'll talk all about when that comes. So just like getting in the right headspace and getting my mind right to finish things up in the next few weeks. My goal is to finish this chapter by the 21st, which is like less than a week away. and then using the 2 weeks after that to finalize my introduction, write a brief conclusion, and then go back and read everything and like make revisions. And unfortunately, there is a little bit of chapter 2 that I need to polish up too. And then send it out to my advisor, go to Greece. During the time I'm in Greece, he'll look at it, make revisions. I'll come back, I'll make my revisions, and then we'll send it out to the rest of my committee, and then I will prepare for the defense. So that's the whole timeline. I feel like I've told that story to YouTube like 15 times, so sorry if you've heard it already. Okay, a couple hours later, I have changed into a t-shirt because it warmed up and I got really sweaty because I decided I don't want to wait. I want to like start cleaning things after they moved the furniture back. There was just like a lot to dust off from when they tore up the floor, etc, etc. That literally took like 2 hours and I feel like I barely made a dent in things. So unfortunately, that's going to replace the second stint of writing my dissertation today. But you guys, the house has been taking up so much of like my headspace that it doesn't feel like it was time wasted, because now I feel like I'm going to be able to like actually breathe when I try and work on my dissertation. It has been a bit of a nightmare as of late. But anyway, I'm gonna go to Kroger because we are pretty low on groceries, and I'll show you guys a little grocery haul when I come back. I feel like it's been a minute since I did that. And then I have that call, as I mentioned, with my dissertation writing coach, and then I'm going to trivia tonight, and I'm gonna have to wash my hair and do all that. And it's almost 3 o'clock, so we got a lot of things to check off in the next few hours. Okay, time for a grocery haul. I got some cherry tomatoes, spaghetti, and basil for making a really yummy, simple pasta that you add some Parmesan cheese to and butter and stuff like that. Bagels, because I'm obsessed with bagel sandwiches. Then we're also going to do black bean enchiladas, butternut squash. I know it's not necessarily the season, but it's okay. Enchilada sauce, some rice to go with it, the shells, red onion, sour cream, cheese. And then I really want to make a carrot cake for Easter, but they don't sell like box carrot cake mix. So maybe I'm having like a glitch, a brain glitch, but I think that this is essentially the same thing as carrot cake. And then it was buy one get one free, so I picked up a chocolate cake one too. Been loving this cereal lately. Milk, cream cheese to make cream cheese frosting for this. Zach and I are obsessed with these because you could eat them raw or you could bake them. So I'll bring these to his house. And then I have been wanting to make some like turkey sandwiches lately. So turkey and cheese. This turkey was $10. That feels insane. And this was $5. So like this was $15 just for that. The whole thing was $70, but $15 just for that. And then I also got some flowers because cheers to the house finally looking normal again. Normal-ish. We're still missing baseboards. Okay, took a quick shower and my hair is like soaking wet. Now I'm going to hop on the Zoom call with my dissertation writing coach, Dr. Kalia, and chat for about 20 minutes, and I'll fill you guys in after we chat. Okay, I got off the call and I feel so good. It's always really nice to chat with someone in general who has gone through the same thing you've gone through, but with the PhD and the dissertation specifically, it's such a unique experience, and I have a really hard time talking about it with like my parents or with Zach or with some of my friends who are in grad school because they haven't lived it. So being part of this PhDone program and having access to these office hours calls with your coach, so mine is Dr. Kalia, is just truly like, I don't know, like a one-of-a-kind unique experience. And I've had people DM me and say like, oh, I know that you have done like sponsored posts for Accepted Society, but like, can you tell me honestly if you think it's worth it? Yes. It is very, very worth it. So the PhDone program in particular, you get access to specific writing sessions with other PhD students. You get access to these office hours calls like I'm talking about. You get access to this Notion template, which I've talked about a million times, which I use literally every single day. And so much more because you get access to all of Accepted Society as a whole. So if you're considering joining PhDone program, let this be your sign. If you're considering joining Accepted Society, let this be a sign. And Dr. Clea is the best. I know she watches my videos sometimes, so if you're watching this, thank you so much. That call was so meaningful for me. We talked a lot about just the complex feelings that are involved at this stage, that it's on the surface like a time of like celebration and joy and like this momentous achievement, but that there's a lot of feelings like underneath the surface too that we don't really talk about and that don't get named. So one of them being grief, like you're grieving this identity of myself being a grad student for the past 7 years. I'm grieving the city that I'm living in, or Bloomington's not a city, the town. Just grieving like this life that I have built and gotten accustomed to, and sitting with sort of conflicting emotions at the same time can be really hard. We also talked a little bit about the defense, and she shared that like it may feel a little anticlimactic, and that was really, really good to know. And just like good to prepare myself for. I'm sure I'm gonna have at least another call before the defense, if not more. So yeah, between this call and between my call with my therapist yesterday, we chatted a lot about the diss. I'm feeling like an overwhelming sense of like acceptance, like things are wrapping up. Dr. Clea used the phrase, you're landing the plane. And I am just sort of accepting that. I'm accepting that this chapter is hard. I'm accepting that things are coming to an end. I'm accepting that a dissertation is ultimately a first draft of your writing and it's not going to be the best thing I've ever written. And I'm accepting that I'm allowed to be proud of myself, but also wish that things could have been different in a few different areas. I'm allowed to be happy, but also scared and sad and confused at the same time. And yeah, I just feel really at peace with things right now. If you're interested in joining the PhDone program, the link is in my description box, and feel free to DM me on Instagram or send me an email, which also my description box if you have any questions whatsoever. Okay, time to blow dry my hair, get ready for trivia. Here is the trivia fit, and I'm proud of how much of this is thrifted. This Kate Spade purse is thrifted, sweater's thrifted, and these jeans are thrifted. Little striped tank crop moment, and then breaking out the Croc sandals, baby. Hello! It is now the next day. It's Thursday. That's where I'm at. I'm losing track of the days of the week. Ah! Almost dropped my sandwich. I went to Panera for lunch. It's 12:30. I am on my little break between leading the writing group at the writing center and then, sorry, it got like hot, so I'm fixing my AC, and actually tutoring at the writing center. I actually came to campus really early today. I don't know why I didn't vlog. I think I felt like I was in a rush. I got to the library right when it opened at 8 a.m. because I wanted to work for an hour before my writing group started at 9, because smack dab in the middle of my writing group from 10 to 11, I had to lead a workshop on Zoom. And I knew I was gonna feel really anxious if I didn't wake up and get some writing done. So really proud of myself for that. Really proud of myself for forcing myself to wake up at 6:45 to do it, but we did it. And also because both of my appointment time slots are filled today. It's like that time of the semester where the writing center is getting busy. So got a good chunk of writing done this morning, but I still hope I get a little bit more done this afternoon when I go home. Chicken Frontega sandwich, and then I got like a cream of chicken soup, and then I got a cookie for me and Megan to split because she's also at the writing center right now. Cheers. You guys, I got home from the writing center and napped for 2.5 hours. I was like reading my book for a little while and I fell asleep at 4, and I woke up and I looked at my phone and it said 6:30. That Megan's in the background going, that was absolutely wild. So you know, like, so much for my second writing stint, but like the sick and evil part of me is like, oh, maybe I'll stay up tonight and do it, but like I feel like I'm ready to go back to bed. I don't know why I napped so long, but I guess that means my body needed it. We're gonna have to do a lot of work tomorrow, that means, because I'm already like 2 days behind my schedule for this chapter. But I made dinner. I made this cherry tomato pasta with olive oil, Parmesan cheese, basil, And then this little pull apart cheesy garlic bread from Costco. And of course I have my Poppy. It's 10:35. I'm not feeling sleepy, but I just took some melatonin, so hopefully it makes me tired. I actually take 3 milligrams of melatonin every night. I feel like it's just like a mental thing at this point, but I do feel like it works also. I don't know what's going on. I was clearly picking up my skin, but I've also been having some like eye irritation lately. I don't know if it's my mascara or the makeup remover or what. So I put on like my trusted Trader Joe's eye cream to hopefully clear some things up. Hopefully I get a good night's sleep and I'm ready to rock and work tomorrow again at 8 a.m. Good morning, happy Friday. It is currently 9:30 a.m. on the dot. Told myself I needed to be up and at my desk by 8 a.m. and I was, so I'm proud of myself for that. Even though I was really sleepy this morning, I actually didn't have that hard of a time falling asleep, which was good. I feel like I've already had a million thoughts this morning, so I'm working on a pretty dense section of this chapter that I've talked a lot about already, but just for my own thinking through the process and my own attempts to like clarify my thinking. I am currently working on chapter 3, which is unpacking why this phenomenon that I call embodied hyper-awareness, where we're hyper aware of ourselves while we're vlogging and hyper aware of how others are perceiving us. I'm unpacking why that happens. And I essentially take a bunch of different frameworks and I say all these different frameworks can be used as ways to help us see why this is happening. But ultimately, the reason why it's happening is because it is strange. And I work with Jimmy Butt's idea of rhetorical strangeness, with Steph Sarasso's ideas of defamiliarization. And then what I'm working with right now is Richard Lanham's framework of the at-through by oscillation. And then what I need to do next is work with Megan Malone's ideas of the embodiment contradiction. So it's like 10 different dense, 10's an exaggeration, like 5 different dense theoretical frameworks. And it's just like a lot of ideas to hold in my head at once. So I have a pretty good grasp on understanding Lanham's sort of at-through. And I'm saying this creates a sense of strangeness and defamiliarization because in vlogging, when we are looking at our bodies, we're seeing ourselves as objects, we're seeing ourselves as like this third person point of view. But when we're looking through our bodies, we're seeing ourselves as like this first person point of view. So looking at our bodies is seeing ourselves sort of as objects, but looking through our bodies is seeing ourselves as subjects. And this toggling and this flipping between seeing ourselves as subjects and objects creates a sense of strangeness. It's just weird. And it creates this sense of defamiliarization with ourselves, and it causes us to be hyper aware of ourselves and hyper aware of how we imagine others might perceive us. But there's other people who complicate Lanham's ideas, which I know I've talked about on this channel before, so forgive me if this is repetitive if you don't care about this. But I talk about 3 main people: Heidi McKee, Colin Brooke, and then Casey Boyle, and each of those get increasingly more complex. So I went through and I've already written the section on Heidi McKee, I've already written the section on Colin Brooke, and Casey Boyle's book is like so dense and theoretical and difficult for me to understand, but that's what I was working with this morning. I've been dreading it a little bit because I feel like I could read it 15 times and not fully understand it. I'm also just like super having like a meta moment right now as I'm like flipping between looking at the lens. So I feel like I'm looking through my body versus looking at the viewfinder, where I'm looking at my body. So it's like through my body, at my body, through my body, at my body. It's like really meta. And I also want to make these connections to like video games, because I feel like that could be one way of like readily explaining it, where there's video games where you're sort of in that first person perspective. So I'm thinking, I don't want to use the example of like first person video games because that's like really dark, but I'm thinking of like Call of Duty, where you're like literally moving like the character's head and you don't see it, versus like, I don't know, Animal Crossing where you see like your body moving through space. And I'm trying to think of video games where you like can readily toggle between them, and I guess like Mario Kart is an example, at least like old school Mario Kart. I don't know. So I texted my brother and I was like, give me some examples of like games that we used to play, because I know I played them, I'm just like unable to think about them right now. So anyway, the ways that it gets complicated is that Heidi McKee is like, you know, we need to not think of it as like these bistable oscillations. They're like multi-stable oscillations. And then Colin Brooke comes in and he adds another proposition that we're not only looking at or through, but we're also looking from particular perspectives, because we are unique individuals. And he goes into detail about this, and he says like specifically we have unique algorithms and we can change and customize our interfaces. So the way that we are experiencing a medium or an interface is not the same way that other people are experiencing it. And that's really interesting. And maybe he made me want to think about video games because he gives examples from World of Warcraft, which I've never played, but he had pictures in the book and they felt like compelling examples. So now I'm going to Casey Boyle's section, and Casey Boyle is like, you know, this whole thing is all well and good, but it's a lot more complicated than that. It's not as simple as just looking at or through or even from. There's no such thing as like multi-stable oscillations. We need to think about meta-stable oscillations. And he says Colin Brooke really like opens up this line of thinking and saying like, hey, like the medium is not a stable thing. It is constantly changing depending on like who's using it. Like the interface is the word he uses. But also like we need to think about ourselves. And we as people are not stable individuals. Like we are constantly changing, and we're constantly changing based on our interaction with the interface and with the medium. So we can really only ever have these meta-stable oscillations at best. So all of that theory I'm then applying to this idea of vlogging, of subjects and objects, of looking at and through and from, and Boyle gets at this idea of looking with, to say that things are a lot more complicated than simply looking through my body versus looking at my body, because we're also looking from, we're also looking with, based on the larger process of vlogging that is not just filming, but it's also editing and it's also circulating. So thinking specifically of comments that are left and how those are impacting the way that I am ultimately seeing myself as an object, and in a way inhabiting others' perspectives, but that's impacting the edits that I choose to make. And I don't know how specific I want to get into this, but I know I've had, thankfully I don't get a lot of hate comment on YouTube, but I've had some like really specific comments about like, I don't know, if I say a lot, or like specific about like the way that I talk. And when I edit things, especially like immediately after receiving those comments, my editing has those comments in the forefront of my mind, and I am like seeing myself from that commenter's point of view, and I am making edits to try and like appease them. So like I'll cut out the parts that I say or I'll cut out these other like ways that I talk, because like they made me insecure, like really like minor ways, it's nothing huge. So in those ways I'm like seeing myself as an object from their point of view, but it's not as like stable, or it's not even like stable period, it's only meta stable, because things are constantly changing depending on like what comments I'm thinking about, depending on who left comments. So that's where I'm at right now. It's 9:37 and I've had a lot of thoughts. So I'm going to take a step away from this for a minute, because I have to give the same presentation that I gave yesterday for the Digital Gardeners program about building and teaching digital portfolios using Wix, and I need to do that at 10 o'clock, and I am in my PJs right now, so I'm clearly not going to give that presentation in PJs. Okay, finished up that presentation, and now I'm going to quickly change into some workout clothes for Orange Theory and go do my tread class. Back from Orange Theory. Got a little Dunkin' latte. I've heard so much about this on TikTok. It's really good. I can't even explain what it tastes like. I feel like I'm primed because when I was looking it up, something on Google described it as like having a milkshake taste, and it kind of does. Like Chick-fil-A's frosted coffee has a distinct taste, and I feel like this has that same flavor, kind of. I got it with brown sugar syrup and an extra shot of espresso because apparently that's how you're supposed to do it. It's really good, but it does have like a really distinct flavor, so I can see how some people wouldn't like it. Showered, sitting back down at my desk to do another writing stint. I know I just need to power through for like an hour. That's all I need, like an hour today, and I can get everything done that I want to. I got like really hot after my shower, hence like just a tank top. I always get hot when I shower and don't wash my hair. Does that happen to like anyone else? I think because you don't have like the wet hair after to cool you off. Anyway, drinking a Gatorade because I realize it's probably not like the wisest to replenish after Orange Theory with just a Dunkin' latte. So I'll have this Powerade and power through. Good morning, happy Sunday, happy Easter. So it's been a minute. Took a little bit of a break from this vlog unintentionally. Yesterday I took a day, sorry there's just like a lot of crumbs everywhere, I don't know what's going on. Yesterday I took a day off from the DISS, and I thought that it was going to be sort of just like a chill, relaxing day, but I ended up just doing a bunch of random stuff with friends. I ended up going to brunch at Hive, we went thrifting, we went to TJ Maxx, binge watched A Southern Charm with Megan, but it was nice just to take a little bit of a break. And I was at like a nice stopping point with the DISS where I finished sort of all the summaries and the applications of the first batch of theoretical frameworks. And now today I'm ready to get into the second major theoretical framework from Megan Malone, where she talks about the embodiment contradiction. And I am ready to reread the article and summarize it and start applying it to vlogs for this DISS. Today is April 20th, and my initial goal had me finishing this chapter by the 21st. I really don't have much left, so I think I will come close. I might shift that goal to hoping that I can finish it by the 22nd. So between today, tomorrow, and Tuesday, I hope I can get this chapter done. Oh my gosh. I'm getting back into things, like reading and looking at notes and stuff, and I'm like, this is gonna take more time than I thought. So I'm feeling a little stressed at the moment. I'm also just feeling really tired despite having a cup of coffee. I honestly might just like have to make another one or something, but I have a lot of thoughts in my head right now, per usual. So basically, I thought that this was going to be a simple little endeavor that I had to take on, because I have already explained sort of Lanham's at through by oscillation, and the way that I did that was using like the grounding sort of artifact of like myself and my own lived experiences as a vlogger. And then when I went on to the second theoretical framework, which is Malone's embodiment contradiction, I was going to use my students' confessional videos from the course that I taught that I have IRB approval to use it for. So I'm feeling like I need to rewatch a lot of videos, and I'm currently rereading Malone's article for like the 10th time, honestly. And it's just like a lot more nuanced. Like every time I read it, I notice something new, and it's a really great article, and I just fear that I am not respecting the nuances of it and using it. So I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. But I also like really want to use this article. I've talked about this a lot. She is working with LGBTQ and queer rhetorics more broadly, and she's focusing on transgender rhetorics and how this has been left out. And I'm not going to go into this because, like I said, I've talked about it a lot in another video, but I feel frustrated right now because I feel like the easy way out is to use theoretical frameworks that are tried and true. I can use Althusser's notion of interpolation. I can use Lacan's notion of the mirror stage. But like, everyone's doing that. And like, do we really need more people citing Lacan? Do we really need more people citing Althusser? One of my goals as a scholar is to like amplify these more marginalized voices. And I feel like there is something like really powerful and meaningful of working with this like lesser known and lesser cited scholarship. But then it's also frustrating because I feel like if someone looks at my works cited and they're like, oh, she's citing Lacan, she's citing Althusser, she's talking about interpolation, like, it gives my work like this inherent credibility, which is just so frustrating because it's coming from like racist and misogynist like points of view and Western and colonial, whatever, all of the above. So I'm just like getting in my head. Maybe I can just like spell this out and say like, you know, like while I could use these theories that come from these other cultural studies scholars, I'm choosing not to because my goal is to amplify this work and because this other work is situated specifically in digital rhetoric and media studies. Saying that out loud sounds good. Maybe I should just write that exactly. This chapter is so hard, and it's also just like, the more I get into my project, the more just like frustrated I am with my methodology as a whole. Like, how did I get through this project and not have interviews? Like, that feels ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Like, not only do I wish I would have had interviews with my students potentially after the class, like I know that that's a common methodology, like Crystal Van Cooten, who does a lot of stuff with video, does that. And I should have taken a page from her book. But I also wish that I would have like interviewed, or at least tried to interview, some of the YouTube vloggers who I analyze. I wish I just would have tried to include that in my IRB. I just didn't have time. Dissertation projects are so rushed. You finish them and you're like, there's a million things I would have done differently. I know very few people who are like, oh, I'm really proud of my dissertation. It was great work. And I know dissertation is just the first draft. I'm ultimately going to have the opportunity to turn it into a book. And maybe when I take on the book project, that's when I can like say, hey, we're doing interviews, we're doing like all this other stuff. I don't know. I'm just feeling frustrated right now, I guess. Okay, it is 3:08. I feel like my wheels were turning so hard today. Felt like I was like burning some rubber. But I don't love what I came up with. I feel like I just like worked myself into something more complicated. I just like created new problems for myself in my writing instead of like chipping away at what I thought I was doing. Basically, in applying the second framework, I thought that I was just gonna say like, hey, and like here's another way to look at it, and it's kind of similar to the first framework, but like it kind of gives us different language, and instead of using examples from my own self, here's some examples from my students to see the same thing. But what I ended up writing, and I don't know why my brain did this, was like, actually it's not entirely the same. It proposes this like third idea. Instead of looking at or through or between or from, it asks us to think about what happens when we're flipping between those perspectives. What happens in that brief moment, that between moment? Is that actually the moment that causes embodied hyper-awareness? Is it not the fact that we're looking at them simultaneously, occupying positions of subjecthood and objecthood? But is it that moment, the exact oscillation, that causes it? I feel like a mad scientist. I wish I could just pour a bunch of things into like a big pot and just give the pot to my advisor, but I should try and sift through some things. I think I'm gonna be done with the disc for today, and we're just gonna have to look at some things tomorrow. I even went back to like our freshman writing curriculum, like mentally, and I was like, okay, this is kind of like when we ask students to write an XY thesis, where we say, you know, like the solution is X, but also, or actually, it might honestly be why. So I'm gonna make a carrot cake because it's Easter and I want to, and Megan bought some stuff for me at the store to make it because that's not carrot cake. This is just like indeed not carrot cake. And I don't know what I was thinking. So now I'm actually gonna make a carrot cake from scratch. Another baking fail. They've sunk quite a bit. Okay, well here it is on the inside. As soon as I cut it, it started to like lean like that. So I'm a little nervous, but it looks like carrot cake on the inside. I got back in the lab. I opened up my laptop. I never do this like after dinner and was like, I need to just like decide what I'm gonna do. Because I was just feeling anxious about what I was even gonna work on tomorrow. Because I was like, am I gonna keep this train of thought that I wrote like 1,000 words for today, but ultimately feel like it makes it harder for me to finish this chapter? Or am I just gonna wipe it clean and start back basically where I was at the start of the day? And I chose the latter option, but it's okay. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it's just the process of thinking. You spend one day thinking about this idea, then you realize that's not actually the direction I'm going in. I'm just starting to feel stressed because I'm running out of time to get this draft done. But it's gonna get done. It's gonna be fine. I absolutely must finish the chapter the next few days so I can move on to the last 10% of chapter 2, writing a conclusion, and then reading everything and revising it to make sure it makes sense as a whole. On that note, I'm gonna end the vlog. I feel like it's so long. I also feel like editing this back is gonna be a form of like working on my desk because this vlog was so like disfocused. I also feel like it might end up just being like incredibly boring, so who knows if this will even get posted. If you made it through the end of this like mad scientist, chatty, whatever you want to call it, you're a real one. Thank you so much, but also like, why? I feel like I would click out of this if I were someone else. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bigger and better things in the next one.